One of the very first things that we want to do in computing is to ask ourselves what a computer actually is. And so we've all got an idea of what a computer might be. We can refer to this laptop as a computer, a desktop computer, a PC. So we know that those things are computers, but we need to be more precise about how we define it. So first of all, if we look at this computer, this laptop here, then we can look at the fact that we can get information into a computer. So we can use this keyboard here. There's some buttons up the top here which we can get information into, and there's also a trackpad here. So all of these devices are called input devices, and they all allow us to get things into the computer. These parts of information we get into the computer are called inputs. This computer is going to do some work with those inputs, and so we call that processing. And finally, the computer is going to make changes. It's going to give us outputs. There's going to be an output from the screen. There's going to be an output potentially from the speakers as audio. And so the things which give information out are called output devices. And so we also have the outputs coming out. And so a very simple computer will take inputs, it will perform some processing, do some work on them, and then it will give us some outputs. Now there's a little more to computers than this. We could, for instance, add in a hard disk. So if we add in a hard disk, then this is a device which is a storage device. And so we can have information going into and out of the computer to a storage device. And in the same way as that, we've also got a picture here of a network cable and a router. We can plug a computer into a router, and then we can plug other computers into that router, and that allows us to have communications. So with network devices, we can perform communications. And so we can have another double arrow that we can also communicate with network devices. Now at this stage, our computer isn't quite everything. Everything which we've discussed so far, whether it's the CPU, the central processing unit that's doing the processing, whether it's the keyboard, whether it's the trackpad, whether it's the display, all of these things are physical things. And because they're all hard, they're all real, we refer to them as hardware. So all of this stuff we've dealt with so far is the hardware. We've also got something else which is different to that, which is called the software. And the software is what tells the computer what it's got to do. And examples of software, obviously you've got applications or programs. And you've also got things like the operating system. And these have sets of instructions inside them which tell the computer exactly what it's got to do with that hardware. And so we can now summarize everything. We can look at what a computer system is. It's inputs that are then processed that result in outputs from the computer system. A computer has an ability to read to and write with a storage device. It also has an ability to send and receive signals using networking devices, and it has the ability to communicate or perform communication. A computer is made up, or a computer system is made up, of its hardware and its software, its programs that tell the computer what to do. Just looking closer at these inputs and these outputs and this processing, what an input device will do is it will take something in the real world. So if we go back to our laptop, what the computer will do, or what this keyboard will do when the key is pressed, it will translate that real-world press of the keyboard into electrical signals. And these electrical signals are either on or off. So we use a system of counting called binary, which either has ones or a zero. A 1 if it's on, a 0 if it's off. So that electrical signal, which might be something like this, that electrical signal will get passed through the computer to the central processing unit, which will then process along with the software. The software will tell the CPU how to process this electrical signal. And then as a result of that, to different devices, so it might be that I press a key and something then changes on the display. So I press the key, that gives the electrical signal, which gives the binary for the CPU to be using in conjunction with the software. And then out of the computer to the output device, it will give another binary signal to the display, which would probably be far, far longer than for a key press, because sometimes the entire display will have to change. That binary signal will be sent to the display, and then our display will give its output. Now, having discussed this, and especially if we look back at that summary we had for what a computer system is. So if we look here, we see that a computer system had inputs, it had processing, and it had outputs, and the ability to communicate and store information. We can then look at something else like a mobile phone, and we can ask ourselves, is this a computer? Well, let's have a think about it. It has the ability to get information in. It has a keypad. It also has a microphone. So it most definitely has input devices, and so I can get inputs into the system. It also has a processor inside. It's a very small processor that actually does quite a lot of work for us. And so it can perform processing. The mobile phone also has outputs. We can get information out from the screen, and we can get information out from the speaker. So it's got output devices, it's giving us outputs. There's the ability to store information on the SIM card and on the internal memory and possibly on a memory card. So it has storage. And obviously, via wireless technologies, it's obviously able to communicate, and it's got an awful lot of networking features. There's also, whether you have an iPhone running iOS or an Android phone or any kind of phone, there is also an operating system on there. And there's what we now refer to as apps, which are applications, which is again more software. So we also have a combination of hardware and software. So a mobile phone is most definitely a computer.